The trap snapped shut with a sound like bone breaking. Atsa had stopped screaming long before the sun reached its highest point. The iron jaws had clamped deep around her leg, teeth sunk past flesh, biting into muscle. Blood seeped into the sand beneath her, dark at first, then drying too quickly in the desert heat. The land did not rush death. It allowed it to linger, stretch, breathe. Every inhale scraped her chest raw. Every minute felt longer than the one before. She had already decided how this would end. So when the shadow fell across her, tall, unfamiliar, carrying the shape of a man, she did not cry out. Her fingers tightened around the small knife pressed against her own skin. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted her eyes, measuring him the way one measured the edge of a cliff. He was white. Worn. Still. "Finish it," she said. Her voice was steady despite the pain clawing through her body. "White man. Or I will. I won't be dragged away. Not alive." The words hung between them, sharp as the iron teeth buried in her leg. Thomas Calder did not answer. He stood there longer than he should have, the desert wind tugging at his coat, the smell of blood and rust filling his lungs. He had seen death before, plenty of it. But this was different. This was a woman who had already made peace with dying and was daring him to prove what kind of man he was. Slowly, deliberately, Thomas set his rifle down in the dust. Then he knelt beside the trap. Before the story could go further, the land itself seemed to pause, as if waiting to see what choice would be made. The country around them was bare and unforgiving, a stretch of red stone and scrub folded into the ribs of the Chiricahua Mountains. It was land that belonged to no one for long. Wind carved it. Sun bleached bone white. Water hid itself in cracks and vanished without warning. People passed through if they survived, leaving behind little more than footprints the desert was quick to erase. It was late spring, when days turned cruel and nights offered only thin mercy. Somewhere overhead, a hawk cried, its shadow circling once before drifting away. Atsa leaned back against the stone, breath shallow but controlled. Pain lived in her leg now, deep and constant, but she refused to let it show on her face. Her dark hair was bound low at her neck, streaked with dust and sweat. Lines marked her cheeks, not from age, but from a life that had taught her endurance without complaint. Her eyes never left the man kneeling near her. She was a widow of the Chiricahua. Grief had ruled her once, years ago. It had done its work and moved on, leaving something harder behind. Atsa had buried her husband with her own hands. Since then, she lived because others depended on her breathing. She tended wounds, set bones, mixed bitter herbs for fever and pain. She understood how quickly life slipped away, and how stubbornly it sometimes clung on. Thomas Calder looked like a man who belonged nowhere either. At 39, his body still carried strength, but it was the kind worn down by miles rather than battle. His clothes were patched and sun-faded. His boots split at the seams. A beard shadowed his jaw, streaked with early gray he did not bother to hide. There was caution in the way he moved, the kind that came from learning the world offered no favors. He had once owned land. Once known the sound of a door closing behind him at night. The warmth of a child sleeping under the same roof. That life belonged to another man now. Since losing it, Thomas traveled light. No town ties. No promises. No name spoken too often. He hunted when he had to, worked when it suited him, slept where the land allowed. Staying was dangerous. Staying meant remembering. Between them lay the trap. Its iron jaws were old, pitted with rust and dried blood that did not belong to Atsa. The chain was hammered into stone too heavy for any animal to drag away. Thomas recognized it instantly. This trap was not meant for animals. It was meant for people. That knowledge settled in his gut like a stone. He glanced once at the narrow canyon walls, at faint disturbances in the sand. Someone had been here recently. Whoever set the trap had not gone far. He looked back at Atsa. She did not ask for help. She did not lower the knife. She waited. In that silence, with heat pressing down and danger already moving somewhere beyond sight, Thomas felt the pull of something he had spent years avoiding, the weight of being needed, and the cost that would come with it. He shifted closer, slow enough that even the wind seemed to wait. He kept his hands visible, empty, palms marked with old scars and newer calluses. The knife in her grip did not waver. "If you're here to talk," she said quietly, "don't." "I won't." "No," Thomas answered. His voice was rough, unused. "I won't." Her eyes narrowed, not in fear, but calculation. "You touch that trap," she warned, "and I'll cut myself free." "You won't." A sharp look. "You don't know me." "I know pain," he said. "And blood loss." "You won't make 10 steps." Silence stretched again. Then she exhaled. "Do it. Or leave." Thomas studied the iron jaws clamped deep into her leg. He'd opened traps before, but never one chained down like a promise someone meant to keep. He reached for the mechanism, then paused. "It's going to hurt." Her mouth curved into something not quite a smile. "It already does." "No more words," he said. He braced his boot against the stone and worked the rusted jaws apart inch by inch. The metal screamed in protest. Atsa bit down on a strip of leather torn from her pouch, breath hissing between her teeth. She did not cry out. When the trap finally released, Thomas caught her leg before it fell back against the stone. Blood welled fast and dark. He wrapped his bandana tight, cinching it until her fingers dug into his sleeve. "Don't let go," she ordered. "I won't," he said, and meant it. "They'll come back," she said. "You should go." He shook his head. "Can't." "Why?" He hesitated. "Because I already left once," he said. "Didn't end well. That was enough." She nodded toward a narrow trail. "There's shelter. Not far. If you can carry me." He lifted her without asking. The knife slipped from her hand and fell into the dust. Neither bent to pick it up. The shelter was a shallow rock overhang hidden by scrub. A thin trickle of water seeped from stone. Thomas cleaned the wound as best he could. Infection would come quickly in this heat. Fever came that night. Atsa burned beneath his hands, muttering names he did not understand. Once, her fingers clutched his sleeve with sudden strength. Thomas stayed awake until dawn. By the second day, she was lucid again. "You didn't leave," she said. "No. You could have." "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Didn't seem right." The days settled into quiet rhythm. He gathered food. She tended her wound. They spoke little, but something fragile formed in the silence. On the 4th day, she stood without support. "I won't lie down again," she said. "I won't make you." That earned him a long look. When the Chiricahua found them, it was just after sunrise. Thomas raised his hands. Atsa spoke first. Questions followed. Thomas answered only what he had done, nothing more. "You stayed," an elder said. "Yes." "For now," the elder replied, "you remain." It was not acceptance. It was a beginning. Life in the rancheria resumed, but something had shifted. Trust was measured day by day. Thomas worked. Atsa healed. The broken trap was set near the council fire, a reminder. On the 7th morning, tracks were found. Heavy boots. More than one. "They are testing us," someone said. The decision was made to move part of the people. Later, Thomas and Atsa walked toward the lower water source. Thomas stopped suddenly. "Another trap." "New." "They're close," he said. Voices carried around the bend. 3 men emerged. Armed. Smiling. "Looks like we found what we lost," one said. "You're in the wrong place," Thomas replied. Atsa moved. She called out sharply. The younger men vanished into the brush. Thomas struck, not to kill, but to break momentum. They did not win. They did not need to. They escaped into the land. When the echoes faded, they were already gone. And for the first time since the trap snapped shut, Atsa allowed herself to believe that survival was no longer something she faced alone.